Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to review Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. It's book 2 in the Empire of the Wolf series, and I gotta say, one of my favorite reads of last year. I read it in December. It doesn't come out until February. I'm so excited I decided to set everything aside and continue straight away after finishing Justice of Kings, because that one I was just kind of okay on. I really liked it. I liked the unconventionality of the storytelling. I had a little bit of a problem with the main character. She was kind of hard to read in places. She was very immature. And the mystery of the whole thing didn't leave me feeling like, wow, that was really good. It was just okay. A lot of things about it were adeptly done. There was a really good moral debate on following the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. And I wasn't expecting it to get that introspective. And it kind of reminded me a bit of the Greatcoat series by Sebastian de Castell, minus a lot of the levity. It was a really good book, but what the second book did was it introduced an even more compelling mystery, one of the kind of page-turning ones, where all of these things are kind of coming together and you really feel like he's taking you on a good journey. It also enhanced character quite a bit. The characters took a direction I wasn't expecting them to go where they went, but it was so much fun to read about them, and the main character came into her own. She didn't change drastically. She's still the same person, but kind of an accumulation of experiences are kind of rounding her out as a person, and she feels like a real person. Very organically done, and I found a connection to her in this book that I was missing in the first one, and I love that. So much better. And then to top it all off, this one was even funnier than the first book. I think the only miss in the first one was that there wasn't a lot of humor, but it seems like he relaxed into his writing style a little bit and decided to have a little bit more fun with it. Now, this book contains an element that I normally can't stand in books, and it's like this metaphysical component, because it's kind of the basis to this magic of this guy being able to enforce the law with his voice and kind of compel people to confess based on this magic, and it is tied to a metaphysical realm. And I normally don't have any patience for that kind of stuff. But in here, it worked. It was done well enough that it didn't bother me. I didn't feel bored while I was reading those passages, and it also didn't dominate the plot. It was just a component to the plot. So I applaud him for getting me out of my grouchy, I don't like that kind of stuff, because it was done really well. My favorite element by far was the sense of camaraderie between the main characters. There's a deep friendship involved there and such a connection, and the most poignant moments were when they really slowed everything down and focused on that. The external plot was all good and fine, but it's that deep interpersonal thing that I really loved about this book. It had that a little bit in the first one, so much more expanded on here and done well. Quite loved that. Basically, the entire time I was reading it, I was thinking this is going to be a solid 5-star read, and it came close. The last 20% or so, no spoilers, but it took a direction that it felt a little out of place. It felt a little forced, a little bit contrived, and it pulled me out of the story just enough. I mean, it was done well, and I enjoyed reading it, but it didn't give me that cap off of bam, that I had been working towards the entire book. And that's probably just a personal problem. I don't know that other readers would find it as jarring as I did to be where we ended up by that point, but it did bring it around full circle, and it had a really good ending. And now I'm okay, this is the pitfall of reading a book early. I know, poor me. But now I have to wait even longer for the next one, and I'm hoping I remember all of the character names and the momentum of the story by then, because I think it's going to be a slam dunk. The series is just oozing with promise that it's going to get better and better as it goes, and I can't wait to see where it ends. There were a couple of surprises in here, very unconventional plot structure, and some great unique ideas. Overall, I'm coming in at a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I recommend it highly. If you like me, you finished the first book and you were like, I could take it or leave it. It's okay, it's good. But am I rushing to the second one? Not really. Rush to the second one. It's worth it. Let's talk about other books you might like. I think if you like the general vibes of all of the books I'm going to talk about, then you'll really like the Justice of Kings series for sure. First up, already mentioned, Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. This one was a hard sell for me at first. The first few chapters are just way overdone, way too much. But he does settle into his stride, and it turns into one of the most profound things that I've ever read. The beginning, I'm like, this is stupid. The end, I'm like, this is brilliant. And I'm not quite sure how he managed to like make that shift, but it was gradually done, and it had so many cool moments of introspection and this sense of justice, which I found that I really liked in Justice of Kings. This is a very good series. It has more humor elements, so if you like Empire of the Wolf, then this one will make you laugh a lot more, but still give you a lot of the same feels. So, highly recommend. The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. I love these more modern fantasies where they have a classic fantasy feel and setting and everything, but they're told in a sophisticated manner with a lot more complex plot structures, characters with a lot more depth, and a lot more high stakes. And that's what I liked about Justice of Kings as well. I think the similarities in here, atmosphere, and there's also the metaphysical component kind of reminded me of a few things that happened in this series, particularly in the third book. And this one's one of my all-time favorites, so if you haven't tried that one yet, give it a go. Emperor's Blades by Brian Staveley. Particularly the main warrior character in this one kind of reminded me of the same kind of attitudes of the main characters in the other book. Now, those are not warriors by any means in Justice of Kings, so this one adds a flavor of combat and training sequences, but I don't know, similar essence. This one has the advantage of having even cooler world building. So if you like the essence of that story and the characters, but want something with a little more world building, rich cultures, this is the way to go. An Alchemy of Masks and Mirrors. I'm recommending this one for the unconventionality, but also the general atmosphere of the story. Very uniquely done. I've never read anything quite like this book, and I've never read anything quite like Justice of Kings, and I kind of like that. And the camaraderie element is in this one, and I think it kind of speaks to it. I could see characters from this book making an appearance in Justice of Kings and not feeling out of place. And then Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan. This one, both stories have an incredibly similar feel to them in my opinion. And what I saw in that second book is reminiscent of the things that I absolutely loved at this series as it got further along. And I think they have very similar vibes. So that's my lineup. Thanks so much for joining me on this review. I want to take a minute to thank my patrons. Thank you so much for all of your support and love and comments and everything. It means a lot. And thanks again for tuning into this review, and I hope to catch you next time.